Jason Bingham. I'm Vice President of the Central Territory for Trane North America. I'm responsible for distribution in North America with 14 states. So we have a district manager model, so there's 7 district managers reporting to me, each trying to build their own culture within their districts. The first true leadership role for me was to be placed into a high-performing culture. There was a leader that I was replacing that had been there 20 years, built an incredible culture, and now I was placed in that and expected to somehow keep it at that level, bring it up, and I was doing everything I could, but in reality was doing a lot of wrong stuff. And that office in Roanoke, again, it was the toughest 2 years of my life because I was battling from an individual contributor to a team leader. But then once I finally got that, unfortunately it took 2 years, but after 2 years of battling that, the culture did train me. And that's when you start to want to be more conscious about how you build culture. And then I was given the opportunity to a sister city in Virginia where it wasn't at that level. And so now I'm trying to figure out how you take what you've learned and seen and felt and lived over in that high-performing culture, how do you build it in this other office? My first challenge of bringing a culture up, my goal was to just kind of get it there, right? I didn't even know what that meant, but I knew, because I had experienced it in the past, I knew what it looked like. And that's probably the biggest blessing I've ever gotten, is be able to live and see it. And now I'm going to an office that doesn't have it, and it's very clear they don't. And so I know I want to make that thing, right? But what is that thing? And that's where Denison came in and said, here's the solid footing. Here is the measurement for culture. Here's how that measurement can move to action. The Denison tool, because it is so clear in its measurement of culture, and so, I'm not going to say prescriptive, but moves to action very quickly, it enables you to sit down with a leader and not only test if they're open to their contribution to those results, but also test their ability to dialogue with you and others about how they're going to work on those results. And what I mean by that, there's a term we used, or I as a leader expect from the entire organization, and I call it direct with respect. It's a behavior that if we've got a problem with each other, we're going to talk to each other about that, not to somebody else. And we're going to do that in a way that's very respectful to each other. Direct about what I'm thinking, but respectful to you as a human. And so the first step has to be an individual, direct with respect discussion. You lay it on the table, but you do it in a very respectful way, and you do it from with a focus on the strengths, with a focus on the positive, with a focus on the opportunity. And so Denison provides the tool to get down to that leader and look that person in the eye and say, I think we've got some opportunity, and I think it's in this area, and I think it's even in this specific question. What do you think? And so that initial piece builds an understanding of intent. My intent here is not to get you in trouble with this. My intent is for us both to use this in a way that's very proactively working on culture and helps you succeed as a leader. And so let's dialogue about that. And you get them comfortable dialoguing about it. You get them comfortable with the good and the bad. You get them comfortable with their strengths and their gaps, all that kind of stuff. And then after you do that with each of the leaders, then I think you do throw it all in one room. You say, oh, by the way, the next meeting is going to be all of us together. And I'm going to ask you to share your circle with everybody, the good and the bad and the ugly. And I hope you're okay with that. There's 2 reasons why that's beautiful. One is the intended consequence, which is we build much stronger plans because it's a collaboration around that. It's sharing of experiences around that, those type things. Because culture is an art more than it is a science, and Denison helps you find that art. But the other beautiful thing about it is by having those tools like Denison, you build a stronger team. By having that candid discussion, they've all been through it together, they've bared their soul together, they've shown their colored circles together, and so now they've got a stronger connection and a stronger teamwork. You now have an image for the rest of the organization for teamwork. If it wasn't there before, it's now there. And the organization sees and feels that, and so they respond accordingly. They now know they have to act like a team too. They now know that they need to share their thoughts on culture and be direct with respect and those type of things. The third step is each leader sitting down with their teams. You put them right in front of their associates with the tool. And so they post up the circles with the colors, and they look at their associates and say, I am responsible for this. I want this to be much better than it is today. And I need to know from you what it's going to take us to do that. And they open up that dialogue to start immediately to build that trust, which is core to every culture. And they also start to really pinpoint those action items within the plan. And so you can look associates in the eye and say, we've got one heck of an opportunity. And the other thing you can look them in the eye and say is, the end goal is that you own the culture. The end goal is that this circle with a whole bunch of colors on it is your circle with a bunch of colors on it. And the end goal is no matter what leaders hear, you're going to teach them how to run the culture. It will sustain beyond everything because it's yours, it's nobody else's. Denison helps you get very clear about the actions you need to take, but then the leaders need to have a process to make those plans alive throughout the year. So A, are we really getting those plans done? Are we looking at that monthly and dialoguing about that monthly? B, what did we learn from those plans? How are we adjusting our approach? C, is there any leading indicators that we are heading in the right direction? And then D, what do we need to communicate to everybody else about this plan, its lessons, and the changes we're making? But my lesson in this one is culture can change really quickly. If you use a tool like Denison to define the key pieces you need to move, you pick 2 or 3 of them, you get the entire leadership team bought in to moving those big rocks, and then you have some mechanism, making it fun or whatever, to assure yourself that that behavior is happening every day, and when it doesn't, it's caught immediately by everybody, not just by the leader. It'll move quickly. Culture is now more prevalent than it's ever been. As an example, the monthly business reviews used to be only about the numbers. Today, they're 25% about the numbers and 50% about the new scorecard we have around culture, including the Denison survey and the Denison action plan. And so we're now having dialogue about that on an every month basis, and so that certainly adds pressure to and tension to and creative tension to culture, but it's also driven business results. And that's substantial in these economic times. And I attribute that to the leaders owning culture and their progress already in making that culture real. The future of culture is dependent on companies like Denison being around and thriving and serving the need that is prevalent today about making culture not only important, but consistently pressured in a business and corporate environment.